So today nobody's here physically, and whoever's joining me online, Shalom Aleichem to you, and of course to my mother, and to Katie, and David, and Shana Batsheva, and Avital, and everybody that joins us. Welcome to all of you, and hopefully Yael is here. I'm not sure yet. Aryeh and Meira told me they're not coming tonight. Oh, there's Yael. Oh, there you go, Baruch Hashem. Me and the Oscars. It's quite an honor. So we're going to continue, B'ezrat Hashem, in Likutey Moharan. We're getting towards the end of this very long lesson. And I didn't expect it to go this long, but it's all good. We definitely learn something every time. Ah, Mata Esther. So nice to have Mata Esther and Yael joining tonight. Shkoyach to both of you. Okay, let me adjust this a little better. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so we're learning from Torah Lamed, and a quick review of Torah Lamed, which I've been doing every time, that speech is very powerful and it affects our connection with Hashem. The teacher that we learn from, their speech is also very powerful and affects our connection with Hashem. And in order to come closer to Hashem, we have to pay attention to our prayers, we have to pay attention to Shabbos, we have to pay attention to who's teaching us, and who that person is. And pretty much, there were many things that we covered. Now last week, that's pretty much where we are. Last week we were talking about Mashiach, and that Mashiach would have the ability to go beyond. We were talking about the prayers, that everybody's prayers reaches the tzadikim, that they go through the tzadikim. So in a sense, the tzaddikim can hear our prayers, and they can judge based on our prayers, and they can tell us what we need to fix, and sometimes they do it from a place of bizayon, of what seems like it's putting us down. But when a person receives rebuke from a tzaddik, it's actually a type of kindness, and we should accept it with love, and it's that rebuke that will bring Mashiach, and Mashiach will be on the level that he won't need to listen to anyone. He'll smell. He'll know justice from smell. And of course, I gave the story, I don't remember which Rebbe it was, that people said, maybe this is the Brizhner Rebbe, that Mashiach is here, and he opens the window. I have the window open over here, and he says, no, Mashiach is not here. They said, Rebbe, how do you know that? He said, well, in my room it has the smell of Mashiach, and outside it doesn't have the smell of Mashiach. So that's where we left off. Now we're going to continue, Be'ezrat Hashem. After he explained that all of the prayers of the Jewish people come to the tzadik, but because they have mixed up thoughts in their davening, we do, the Jewish people, when we daven, these prayers that come with unholy thoughts or thoughts that lack emunah, they cause confusion to the tzaddik who doesn't have these thoughts and doesn't have a lack of emunah. But still, these thoughts come into the tzaddik's mind, since the tzaddik has a higher level of perception and can hear our prayers. ולכן לפעמים הצדיק מוכיח אותנו מתוך צערו בדרך ביזיון. And so sometimes the tzaddik rebukes us from the place of his suffering, I guess his frustration, and he does this sometimes by way of bizayon, of putting us down, what appears putting us down. I mean, I grew up with very tough people. It sounds funny for people that don't know. The Boy Scouts, hi Ron, Shalom Aleichem. But the Boy Scouts in the troop that I was in, they were all World War II and Korea and Vietnam War veterans. And they were very tough guys. So I never minded when they rebuked me because I knew it was coming from a place of being sincere. But they were very tough. And honestly, the easiest way to rebuke a person is to just straightforward tell them, you're doing this wrong, but most people are not capable of hearing that. That's why sometimes if we hear rebuke from a tzaddik, we might have resistance to accepting it. V'chein be'er, and then he explained שהצדיק מריח את יראת השמיים של המתפלל בתפילתו. That the tzaddik can smell the awe of heaven in the prayers of the person that's davening. V'chach hu mochiach oto, and that's why he rebukes him, based on what he hears in his prayers. Yeve'er ata, now he's going to explain, et ma she'adayin kasher, what's still difficult for us to understand, she'arei kol tefillot ba'ot el tzadik yachad, all of the prayers are coming to the tzaddik all at one time, v'ketzad hu yeda ezo tefillah ba, me'ish kasher ve'eze lo. So if all these prayers are coming into the tzaddik all at the same time, how is the tzaddik supposed to know which prayers are coming from a kosher person and which from not? V'kach ketzad yada hatzadik mitoch hatfilah. And how will the tzaddik know from within the davening al eze inyan bepratut hu tzarich lehochicho, and regarding which matter the tzaddik has to rebuke the person. So I mean, I'm guessing a person could say, Hashem saved me. Ana Hashem atziloti, could be just saying, Ana Hashem oshiana. Hashem, please save me from my troubles and afflictions. Sometimes that's my prayer. I just have so much going on. I just say, Hashem, please save me. And so let's say the tzaddik receives that prayer. How is the tzaddik supposed to know from something like that what to rebuke me? The tzaddik could come and say, Barak, you just need to hold on. You need to have some more emunah. You need to be joyous. You need to make a vessel to receive the shefa. And I actually have these conversations with people quite a lot. There's a friend of mine who's become very depressed because of his life circumstances. And I've been trying for over a month now to get him to come to shul. Just doesn't want to come to shul. It says it's too joyous in shul. I'm talking about Mayanot on Friday night. And I told him, I saw him, it's amazing because I keep running into him on the street, which normally I wouldn't do. And I told him, you want Hashem to send you something, you have to pull out of your depression, and the only way you can do that is through joy. And so for him, that's very hard to hear. I'm not a tzadik, and I don't hear his prayers, but I'm just a human being and like a normal person that can tell that the guy needs to be a little uplifting. Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay. Omnam lichora kasher איך אפשר לו לצדיק להוכיח את כל אחד ואחד כפי עניינו. But at first glance, it seems difficult. How would it be possible for the tzadik to rebuke every single person based on what they specifically need? הלא כל התפילות באים אצלו יחד. All the davenings come with the tzadik all at one time. של הכשרים ושל אותם שאינם כשרים, those that are kosher and those that are not kosher, I would say not yet kosher. ואיך יודע איזה תפילה באה מזה ומזה? And so how does the tzaddik know that this one comes from a kosher person and this one comes from a person that's not thinking in a kosher way at that moment? כדי להוכיח אותו, in order to rebuke the person. הוא משיב, and he answers, אך הוא יודע זאת, but the tzaddik does know this, על ידי ההזות והתורה של כל אחד ואחד, through the azut, which means chutzpah, audacity. I'm sure there's other words for it. Azut, chutzpah, and the Torah of every single person. Im tfilato hayata kehogen olav. If the person's davening was proper or not. Ki yesh shnei minei azut. There are two types of chutzpah. Ki yesh azut kedusha. There's holy chutzpah. She'i efshar lekabel et haTorah ki im al yedei zeh hazut kedusha. A person cannot receive the Torah unless they have holy chutzpah. Which, of course, we've learned lessons about holy chutzpah. And we're going to talk about this here, but I'll read the note here. This is from, where does it say? It doesn't say here. Okay, whatever. I guess it's in the Likutey Moharan. Mihu ish shafel v'nivzeh ein bo shum azut kedusha. Somebody that's downtrodden and really hard on themselves, they don't have any holy chutzpah. Ein lo gamken chelek b'Torah. They also don't have a portion in the Torah. Kamosha amura within uzuchamucha, as the sage in blessed memory said in Masechet Beitzah, mipnei ma nitna Torah liYisrael mipnei sheim azin. Why was the Torah given to the Jewish people? Because they have chutzpah. So I see actually in this note, he's going to cover this here, so I'm going to get back to the text here. So there's two types of chutzpah. There's the holy chutzpah. Kamosha amura within uzuchamucha, as the sage of blessed memory said in Pirkei Avot, Lo habaishan lamed, a person who is bashful can't learn Torah. Ki hu mitbayesh lish'ol sfekotav merabo, because the person is too intimidated and scared and shy to ask his teacher the questions that he has, the things he doesn't understand. Harei sheyesh tzorech ba'azut b'shvil ilmod Torah. In order to learn Torah, you have to have a little bit of chutzpah, of holy chutzpah, and ask questions. And I'm a living example of this because I really never went to yeshiva. I did spend one day in Esha Torah in 1990, and then I was kicked out the next day, actually, for asking too many questions. They thought I was asking chutzpahdik questions. But I never stopped asking chutzpahdik questions, and I've learned a great deal of Torah by just asking and asking and asking and saying, I don't understand, but what does that mean? Well, what does that mean? And that's what it means. But if a person is very shy, and they say, who am I to ask this great rabbi a question about Torah? I don't want to embarrass myself. What the rabbi says to me, what a stupid question. What if he says to me, what are you asking that for? That actually happened to me. Not so long ago, maybe like a year ago. I was at a Sheva Brachot of a very good friend of mine, Haredi friend of mine, and he invited this big Chabad rabbi, like one of the big Yerushalmi Chabad rabbis, maybe even the biggest name in Jerusalem. And I know who this rabbi is. I mean, don't know really personally. I've met him before. And we're there at the Sheva Brachot, and I decided to sit right next to the Chatan because nobody was sitting next to him. And this rabbi sits across from us, and he's giving his Dvar Torah in Hebrew with his Yiddish accent. And I don't think anybody listened to what he said. You know, we're all like, just when's he going to finish? And then finally he finished, and I said to him, Rabbi, you know, Kvod Rav. I really gave him a nice title, Honorable Rabbi. Can you please tell us what's the secret of having Shalom Bayit, of having peace at home? Because here we have a new Chatan, he just got married yesterday, and you're a great rabbi and you have so much Torah knowledge and you've been married for, I remember I asked him, he said probably something like 55 years. I said, so Rabbi, what's the secret? He said, no secret. Leave me alone, I don't want to talk about it. So that didn't work out so well for me, and I guess maybe things were not. Either the rabbi's such a great tzadik and so holy, he didn't want to share with me and the new Chatan the secret to Shalom Bayit, or he's still trying to figure it out. So I shared with him, I share with all the Chatanim what I think is the secret to Shalom Bayit, the thing that I'm still working on myself. It's really to appreciate your spouse, and it's not always easy to do. That's the bottom line. Appreciate your spouse, and if you want something, then you do it yourself, most of the time, if you can. Like the dishes aren't washed, so instead of telling your spouse, wash the dishes, you wash the dishes. And then the hardest thing is afterwards to not say, look at what I did. That's the hardest thing. Okay. Sage the blessed memory said in Beitzah, as we said before, Mipnei man nitna Torah liYisrael mipnei sha'azim hem. Why was the Torah given to the Jewish people? Because they're chutzpah. And don't we see that here in Israel? Like, it's a whole country. You know the joke of David Ben-Gurion, who went to the United States. I don't know who was the president at the time, Eisenhower, whoever it was. And Eisenhower says, you know, it's hard to be the president of the United States. I'm the president of whatever it was, 250 million citizens. And Ben-Gurion says, yeah, it's harder to be the prime minister of Israel. I'm the prime minister of a country of prime ministers. Ubechach azutam yachlu lekayem et Torah. And because of the Jewish people's chutzpah, that's why they can keep the Torah. Hayod shetnai lekabbalat Torah hu azut kedusha, because one of the conditions for receiving the Torah is to have holy chutzpah. V'Yisrael hem azim yacholim lekabel lekayem et Torah. And since the Jewish people have chutzpah, they are able to receive and to keep the Torah. As the sage of Blessed Mary said in Pirkei Avot, Havei az kanamer, be bold like a lion, v'chulei, and so on. La'asot ratzon avicha shebashamayim, to do the will of Hashem that's in heaven. Shelo yitbayesh mipnei hamal'igim uchonkim alav. That if a person makes fun of you or says, you know, what is this silly religion that you Jews keep? What do you mean keeping kosher? You can eat in any restaurant you want. Why do you have to keep kosher? Whatever it is, any type of putting somebody down. So you say, no, I'm going to serve Hashem. I'm going to be bold like a lion. Ubishvil zeh haTorah nikret oz. And that's why the Torah is called oz, strength. But oz also means azut, chutzpah. Kamo shekatuv, as it's written in Tehillim, Hashem oz la'amo yiten. Hashem gave strength to the Jewish people, but it means he gave the Torah to the Jewish people because the Torah is called oz. The Torah is called strength, but not just strength from not just koach, but strength from a place of being chutzpah, to understand and to keep. V'kavana hi ala Torah. When we say oz, we're talking about the Torah. Kamo shepiresh Rashi. Okay, bezvachim. Kamo ki haTorah hi me ozen. What does that say? Giborotam shel Yisrael. Because the Torah is the strength of the Jewish people. Ki efshar lavo la Torah ki im alidei azut kedusha. The only way that you can keep the Torah, to come to the Torah, to keep Torah, to learn Torah, is by having holy chutzpah, by asking questions. You have to ask questions. Anytime that you don't understand something, it doesn't make sense, you have to ask, what does that mean? That's what I did to Reb Shalom for 20 years. That's what I do to Rabbi Gestetner Shabbos morning. And many times he says to me, that's a good question, but he doesn't know the answer. But sometimes he doesn't know the answer, and that's what I learn. And also with my chavuta of cheshon, should be healthy. Alan ben Chanaliwa Bezat Hashem. I ask him all the time. But there was Pashkeval, I think is what it's called. The Haredi posters, the black and white posters they put all around town. It says Yamei, I forgot what it was called, Tashbo something. And I said to him, what does that mean? He said, these are the parshas of it. And he listed the 6 parshas. And he said, this is a special time for doing tshuva. And he said, it's a good thing you asked, because that's how you learn. So that's the intention here. U'keneged ze, keneged azut kedusha, nitztarechet la'asagat haTorah. And as opposed to the holy chutzpah that's necessary for learning the Torah, yesh lehipuch, there is the opposite. Azut min hasitra achra, chutzpah from the other side. That's literally what it means, from the negative energy in the world, but it means the other side. She misham ba'im torot acherot, from there other Torahs come. So, what do you mean other Torahs? We mean other ways of trying to find spirituality or common wisdom or whatever it is, something that would oppose the Jewish way of life. I've mentioned, now I'm questioning myself, it was Seneca, pretty sure it was Seneca, who was the Roman advisor to Nero, if I'm not mistaken, and a philosopher whose writings still remain and have been republished in English. And one of the things that he criticized us for was keeping Shabbos, because it didn't make sense. When people lived on homesteads, and you had to take care of animals, and you had to take care of the crops, and there was all this work to do, that you should take one day off and rest, didn't make sense to him. So that could be Torah from the other side, for example. Shehem Torot Shelehem. These are the Torahs of them, of the other side, or even Christianity or Islam, for example, if you were to follow another religion's Torahs, or just take general philosophies of life, if somebody steals from you, you should steal from them. I don't know, those types of things. Shem Bechinat Pesilim, that these are connected to idols or statues, Avodah Zarah, idol worship. Ki amur b'Gemara, because it says in the Gemara Nedarim, Kol mi sheyesh bo azut shel hasitra achra, anybody that has the chutzpah of the opposite side, biyadua shelo amdu raglei avotav al har Sinai. It's certain that the feet of the person's ancestors, the feet of their ancestors, did not stand on Mount Sinai. Meaning somehow you got into the Jewish people, but you're not really part of the Jewish people, if you're really coming in that way. There are people that are anti-religious, anti-Jewish, like Jews that are anti. It could be talking about them. V'lo kibel Torah, that person didn't receive the Torah, like his ancestors didn't receive the Torah. V'gam kol chidushei haTorah hinam misinai, and all of their new ways of understanding the Torah. V'gam kol chidushei haTorah hinam misinai. V'afilo im nireh shehu achen yodei Torah. So all of the new understandings of the Torah, they do come from Sinai. And even a person that it seems like they understand the Torah, yesh lo Torah misitra achra hanikraim psilim. The Torah that they have is the Torah from the opposite side, and that's called idol worship. Oops. Sorry, closed the window too loud. It is cold here, I just didn't realize I was going to close it that loud. So I'm reminded of a friend of mine that was part of the Kabbalah Center. He was in the cult of the Kabbalah Center. And I'm just looking for my place here. And he said that, I forgot that guy who founded it. I don't remember his name. But he and his son ran the place. And this guy now is an Orthodox kosher Jew. And then he was also an Orthodox Jew. And he said that the Torahs that this guy and his son were giving over, sounded exactly like the real Torah that you would hear. It was only when you were many years in the cult that they would start making tiny little changes to them, and that you realized that you weren't getting the Torah from the Kedusha side, from the holy side, you were getting it from the other side. Shehu hefech min haTorah hakadosha shelanu. This is the opposite from our holy Torah. Shehu bechinat psolecha. That this is the aspect of carve for you. Thank you, Rabbi Berg. I don't know if we're supposed to really call him Rabbi. Mr. Berg. The Berg family, yes, that's them. So this friend of mine he happens to be very wealthy and was very deeply involved in the cult and gave them millions of dollars and all this crazy stuff. He said, the first few years you won't hear anything that's not completely, purely Orthodox kosher, 100%. Only later on you'll start getting convoluted things. And also that he had some type of spiritual power that drew people in, and that it was undeniable. That's what he said. Actually, I went online and watched a few minutes of his son speaking. I didn't find it very interesting. Okay. Kihi Torah Kedusha shenikret psolet. So what our Torah comes from psolecha, and psol means to carve for you, like carving a statue, but this is carving the tablets of the Torah, of the Ten Commandments. Kihi Torah Kedusha nikret psolet al shem shehatid, klomar she'az itiyeh psolet. Our Torah is called psolet, which is waste, because in the future, now is that what it says? Torah kedusha nikret psolet, because in the future it'll be like waste, like the wrapper that you leave behind. The sage of blessed memory said in Pesachim, "Bedrishat pasuk la'atit lavo," regarding a verse for the world to come. In Zechariah, Vaya b'yomahu lo yeh or yikarot ve'kapun. So I'm sorry, I didn't look up that quote. I don't know what it is. Or shehu yakar ba'olam hazeh, the light that's precious in this world, yeh kafui ve'kal le'olam haba, will be light and insignificant in the world to come. So the Torah that we learn in this world will be insignificant to the Torah that we'll learn in the world to come. And the intention is that the Hasidic understanding of this is that the Torah is called light. The Ketib, as it's written, the Torah Or in Mishlei, and that's also the book of the Alter Rebbe, and his Torah is called Torah Or. She'ata Hi yekara ma'od. Now the Torah that we learn is very precious. Ulam le'olam haba. But in the future, in the world to come, tiyah Torah zo kfuya v'kala. This Torah will be insignificant and lightweight compared to the Torah that we're going to learn in the world to come. Mishum shehi b'chinot psolet. Because it's connected to psolet, which is the wrapper, the outer layer of it. Shehu kafu v'kal v'tzaf lamala. That is light and insignificant and floats on the surface. Ki ha'Torah sheyesh biyadenu hi psolet l'umat ha'Torah shetitgale la'atid lavo. Because the Torah that we now have in our hands is insignificant to the Torah that we're going to have in the world to come. Aval Torato shel mi shemekabel et ha'Torah shel ha'sitra achra. But the Torah of somebody who receives the Torah of the negative side, of the opposite side, hi psolet kfar ata afilu ba'olam hazeh. It's light and insignificant even in this world. Ve'al shem ze nikreim asitra psilim, and that's why the negative side is called statues, kamosha katuv, as it's written in Sefer Shemot, Lo ta'aseh lecha fesel, that you shouldn't make a statue or a graven image. Darshu b'Zohar, it's written in the Zohar, Pasuk ze al mi she'omer Torah she'ina emet. This verse is regarding somebody who says a Torah that's not true. Umi sheyesh lo azut shelehem min hasitra achra, and somebody that has the chutzpah from the opposite side, hu mekaber Torah shelehem, that person receives their Torah, b'bchinat psilim kanal, which is connected to statues and idol worship as mentioned above. So you understand what he's saying here. He says, you learn the Torah, our Torah, you're going to get holiness. You learn the opposite Torah, you're going to get idol worship, and you're going to get something that will distance you from the Torah. So let's take somebody who their Torah is being anti-Israel and pro-Palestine. And we see it today where you see Jews in America, you see a few of them here in Israel, but not very many. Not in our name, or if not now, is one of the groups. And they'll have posters and t-shirts say, not in our name. You know, the people are being killed in Gaza, not in our name. That Nasrallah was killed, not in our name, and all of those things. Now, I'm not saying that these people are doomed or cursed or anything like that. I'm saying that at this moment, they're absorbing the Torah of the other side. And if they were absorbing the Torah, the true Torah, then their thinking would change and the way they see the world would change. And so you can have somebody, I also remember being once on a flight many years ago. This Israeli guy had a huge cross, huge gold cross. And he was sitting there with his family, and we were flying back from Miami. It was a long flight. And the whole flight, they were arguing, and he was trying to convert them to Christianity in Hebrew. And he was talking about how he's a Christian and nobody can change his mind, and that he found the truth. And his family was just shocked. They weren't religious, of course. He did find his truth. He came to America. He found a community that embraced him. He found something that made sense to him. And if somebody had done the same for him, you know, a Jew, then hopefully he would have found his connection there. But he found it on the other side. So if you learn their Torah, you get their idol worship. And that's what this Israeli guy got. And through the chutzpah of the tzadik, he sees in every person on their level, Peush kfar itpe'er sheyesh b'Torah shnei sugei azut. We already explained that there were two types of chutzpah. Yeshna azut kedusha, there's holy chutzpah, v'al yada zochim l'Torah b'kedusha, and then through that a person merits the holy Torah. V'yeshna azut sitra achra, and then there's the chutzpah of the opposite side. She'al yada mekablim Torah psula legamri, you receive a completely unkosher Torah. V'davar zeh ro'eh ha-tzadik b'fanav shel ha'adam. The tzaddik is able to see this on the face of a person. It said that the Baal Shem Tov could do that, and the Ariyat HaKadosh could do that, Arizal. That was a joke that my son was said on Shabbos in Tchiyat Eitim, when the dead are going to come back. So somebody who's a Rav Kooknik, meaning he's a student of Rabbi Kook, the first chief rabbi of Israel, and essentially the founder of modern religious Zionism, so he's going to see Rav Kook and say, Rav Kook Zatzal. Rabbi Kook, the tzadik of blessed memory, because we are so used to calling, for example, Arizal, which means the Ari of blessed memory. Okay, so these people, these tzaddikim are able to see it on your face. Ve'al yedei zeh hu yodea im yesh lo le'oto adam azut kedusha or lehipuch. And then through that you can know if a person has holy chutzpah or not. I mentioned once who was it? It's on the tip of my tongue. I think it was the Karliner Rebbe, Stoltz Karlin, and he could read people's foreheads. So one time there was one of the Hasidim who came and he put his hat over his forehead like this, and the tzaddik tried to look underneath it, and he wouldn't let him see it because he didn't want him to read his forehead. So an older chassid who was behind him, he said, in my generation, we would lift our hats up so that the tzaddik could see what was on our forehead, so he could rebuke us and we could fix what we wanted. But in this generation, they hide their forehead so that the tzaddik doesn't see it. And through this, the tzaddik, גם יודע אם תפילתו הייתה תפילה כשרה או להיפוך. The tzadik can know by looking at your face whether your davening was kosher or the opposite. כי גם התפילה היא על ידי עזות, because all davening comes through a type of chutzpah. כי אי אפשר לעמוד להתפלל לפני השם יתברך, כי אם על ידי עזות קדושה. Hashem is so great, Hashem is creating everything all the time. How do we even have the chutzpah to stand in front of Hashem and ask for anything? How can we daven for anything? So the only way that a person can daven is if they have chutzpah. Ki kol echad lefum mash, I'm just going to read it in English. Kol echad kefi mashu, sorry, in Hebrew. Mashehu misha'er belibo et gudulat haborei yitbarach shemo. Each person, what they estimate in their heart is the greatness of Hashem. What does that mean? That means, how much do you feel that Hashem is actually involved in your life? You acknowledge intellectually, you know it, and how much are you actually living it? כמו שכתוב, it's written in Mishle, נודע בשערים בעלה. Her master is known in the gates, meaning that Hashem is known in the gates. Darshu b'Zohar, and it's explained in the Zohar, ki ba'ala hu HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It says in the Zohar that when it says her husband, it means Hashem. V'hu noda l'kol achad b'sha'arim hainu shiurim. That he knows, he's known in all the gates, but that it means shiurim, which means measurement. Ki kol chad, and again in Aramaic, kol chad, lefi mashe mishe'er b'libo. Each person according to how they evaluate Hashem's presence in their life. V'kol echad lefi erko shemishe'er b'libo ekdulat haborei yitbarach shemo. And every person, and the way that they evaluate how much Hashem is going to influence their life. And Hashem is going to do it one way or another. It's how much you decide that you're aware of it. Im ken ech efshar lo la'amod u'titpalel lefanav mirov busha. And so, how every person knows that Hashem has some type of power in their life. Even the secular person, the most secular person, they also ask. So they might not call Hashem Hashem. They'll call Hashem something else. They ask the doctor to heal them. They ask nature to heal them. They ask for all kinds of things. Ubefrat atfila hi plaot. And specifically, davening is a wondrous thing. Dahainu shidud hamarechet. That is mixing up the system shel kochavim umazalot, of the constellations and the stars, meaning the way that nature was established. She'amarachot chayavim kach. According to nature, a certain thing is supposed to happen. Shetiyeh hanhaga mesuyemet ba'olam. That certain things should happen in the world. Kol kochav umazan kavua shel al misharto u'ma'aracha shelo kafi ma shesidram borei yitbarach shemo. Each star and constellation according to how it's supposed to serve and according to its purpose, meaning that if a person is born into a third world impoverished family, it's very unlikely that one day there'll be a billionaire, even though that happens. And all kinds of things, a person that's not capable of learning, it's unlikely that there'll be a Talmid Chacham, but that also happens. So that's what we're talking about here, changing the way that, according to nature, things are supposed to be. Sheyu kvu'im u'mesudarim kach v'kach, that they should be orderly and follow a certain order. V'lifamim mechimat haseder hazeh ba'a eze gzera or cholaim le'olam. Because of this order that's established, there comes a certain decree or some type of sickness, God forbid, to the world. V'hu ba b'tfilato v'rotzeh l'shaded ha'ma'arechet l'shanot ha'teva v'la'asot pla'ot. And so somebody comes and they say to Hashem, even though it's like this in nature, I want you to change nature and do a wondrous thing. And that's what we're doing essentially a lot of times in our davening. Kagon l'shanot she'mi she'al pi ha'teva haya ra'oi liot chole yeh bari. That is, that a person that according to nature should be sick, now they should be healthy. Of course, we daven for that all the time. O mi she'oni yeh asher v'chulei. Or the person that's poor should be rich, and so on. Bezat Hashem. Everyone that needs healing should be healed, and everyone that needs wealth should get wealth. Bezrat Hashem, myself included. Al kain b'sha'at tefillah tzarich lesalek et habusha. And so when a person is davening, you have to cast aside your shame. Hanovat mikach shehu yodea lefi shi'or levavo et gedulat haboreh. That a person knows that according to their heart and how they measure Hashem's greatness, the greatness of who they're davening to. Mechimat ze bevadai lo haya meiz litpalel lefnei melech ram v'nisa. And if a person truly understood Hashem's greatness, they wouldn't have the chutzpah to even dare to daven in front of Hashem. Befrat leshanot et ha'ma'arechet ha'mazalot shekavu HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And for sure not to change the nature, that the way that Hashem set things up. V'lachen hu tzarich liot b'tokef ha'azut kedusha. And so a person has to have the power of holy chutzpah. Kamo shekatuv, as is written, b'cha batchu avotenu v'chulei batchu v'lo bashu. Our sages, our ancestors, trusted in you, Hashem. They trusted in you, Hashem, and they were not embarrassed. Litpalel el mi shebetucham bo. And to daven to the ones that they trusted, that their faith was in. Ki al yedei habusha shemitbayesh mi'ito yitbarach. Through the shame that a person has by davening to Hashem, you wouldn't be able to daven. Ki im al yedei azut kanan. Unless it was the chutzpah as mentioned above, harei nitztarechet ha'azut b'shvil ha'tfilah. Because a person needs chutzpah in order to daven, and that's where we're going to pause for tonight, because we're running out of time. Even though I want to do a little bit more, but that's it. So I'm going to give you a short story about Reb Zushe, Bezrat Hashem, keeping with our tradition. Reb Zushe, of course, you know, he lived from 1718 to 1800, and he's buried in Mezrich, next to the Magid Mezrich. And so Reb Zushe, one time on Purim, the Hasidim were sitting with him, and they were having the Purim Suda, and the table was set with wine and food, and everybody's singing, and you know, if you've ever been to a good Purim Suda where it's holy and not just drunk, then let's imagine that's where we were. That's how it was with Reb Zushe. And then one of the students says to Reb Zushe, he says, Rebbe, the Talmud says on Purim, a person must drink until they can't tell the difference between blessed is Mordechai and cursed is Haman. Now, I've said before that it doesn't say to drink. It says that a person has to get drunk on Purim. It doesn't say that the person has to get drunk on alcohol. It says you do have to get drunk, and the understanding is alcohol, but you can also get drunk on Purim. So how do you get to the point where you don't know the difference between blessed is Mordechai and cursed is Haman? And then he said, now there's another contradiction, because a Jew is not supposed to lose their ability to distinguish between good and evil. So here you're telling us not to distinguish between good and evil, but we're not supposed to get to the point where we don't know the difference between good and evil. Okay, so Reb Zushe's face lit up, and he said, I'm going to tell you a parable, and this parable is going to give you your answer. He said, imagine there's two people. One is a very wealthy man, and the other is very poor. And the rich man has everything a person could want: money, clothes, a table full of food. And the poor man barely has enough to survive. And one day the king declares a great celebration and invites everyone from the kingdom to join him, both rich and poor. And the rich man comes in his fine clothes and he sits at the royal table, and the poor man, who's usually hungry, now has finally a chance to eat as much food as he wants. He forgets about his poverty and he feels as rich as a king. And that, Reb Zushe says, is the secret of Purim. When a Jew truly rejoices, they forget their suffering, they forget their pain, even their own identity. On Purim, we rejoice so much that we forget all of the differences between rich and poor, honored or disgraced. And that's what it means to not know the difference between blessed is Mordechai and cursed is Haman, because in the presence of divine joy, all suffering is forgotten. So, Also, to look at the nikudot tovot, to look at the good points in everyone. That's how you'll be able to not distinguish between the good and bad on Purim. And I'll just share another Purim secret with you, that if you daven with the people that you see, then you'll have an elevated Purim. I promise you. You go to each person and you say, today is a special day. It's Purim. What do you need? What can I daven for you? And if you daven for people, and then you can also ask them, of course, to daven back for you, then I promise you, you will have an elevated Purim, because you're no longer judging a person. If you look at somebody and say, oh, they're poor, or they don't have kids, or they never got married, and you daven for them to be wealthy, to be healthy, to get married, to have kids, whatever it is that they need, then you're no longer judging them from where they are there. You're putting them in a new place, and that in itself will elevate you on Purim, Be'ezrat Hashem.